No go.
We're going to start off the meeting. We'll start with roll call.
You see one away from the smart.
Delaware County, Mr. Early is excused. Lou Jones. Patrice Delafield. Steve Hood. Probably working today with a new job. Fulton County, Von Hart. Jack Farquhar.
You got it.
Howard Heim. Bill Dunham.
On the side of the road, and I want people
We
to
have
see
a gold star for Fulton County. Hamilton County, Cindy Dunham is excused. Joyce Malidi.
Here.
Bill Malidi, present. Gary Wicks.
Here.
Montgomery County, Tom Pasquarelli.
Here.
Mickey Swartz.
Here.
Trish Green.
Here.
Jared Gilson.
Here.
Another gold star for Montgomery County. Otsego County, Sid Chase.
He was here.
Brian Knapp, I haven't heard from him. I presume his work schedule is interfering. Dr. Markowitz.
Here.
Dana Wygant.
Here.
Rich Kirschman.
Here.
At least half a gold star for Otsego County. Schoharie County, Andy Cuccinella.
Here.
Ed Brandt. Will be working. Bill Beavers.
Here.
Okay. Dr. Leinhardt has to leave early. Sir, we have a quorum.
Okay, very good. Okay, we have our minutes from our last month's meeting. Everyone got a copy of the minutes? And a motion for approval? Here. Made and seconded for approval. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed or abstained? Okay, we also have some guests.
We do indeed. We have Howard Youth and Deb Cuss. We have Rich Beebe with us tonight. Welcome, Rich. Mary Ramo from the DOH EMS. Beth McGowan from CMT. Tony Aggressive from the Amsterdam Fire Department. Did I leave anybody out? Okay. Welcome one and all.
Yeah, welcome. Okay, correspondence. Are we going to copy of correspondence?
Not too much correspondence today. Or this month, I should say.
I don't have a report. We'll go right into the Secretary's report.
Okay. I received from SCARSA, the Schoharie County Ambulance and Rescue Squad Association, a nomination of Bill Beavers, who is currently an alternate for Schoharie County, to become a regular voting member to fill a vacancy. So I would like to make a motion that we accept the nomination of Bill Beavers to become a voting member from Schoharie County.
Do we have a second? Second. All those in favor? Aye. Saying aye?
Aye.
Okay, wonderful.
Received an email last week from Steve Sonder at the Department of Health. This can become as a terrible surprise to you folks, but there were a lot of PCR. And he said the contract is in the works, but sometimes it takes a little while for the contract to be processed, and I found that hard to believe also, but I have to take his word for it. So he said that right now he wants everybody, all the regions, to tell him how many PCRs we have on hand. We have about 4 or 5 packs of them, not booked, packs of them on hand. And he said he will put us down for PCRs just as soon as the contract is approved and they begin printing again. I passed it on as a point of information.
I was told yesterday they were ordered.
They're ordered? Well, that's actually not too slow. That's a little bit faster than I expected. Okay, see, you get cynical as things go on, you know? Anyway, our independent auditors, by the way, the state has advised us that we no longer have to submit an audit every year. Matter of fact, we get so little money from them in total, and we don't get any federal money, that actually our region and a number of others do not have to submit an audit at all to the state. Now, I think that a yearly audit is a good idea because it has a paper trail that we're doing things the way we're supposed to do them.
And it's got cartoons.
But we really don't have to submit the audit to the state, so we're not under a deadline anymore. We're not under any great rush. And the auditors, we can pay them when the state decides to pay us. So this is a point of information.
Do they know that?
But the auditors know that. Yes, they certainly do. Yep. The auditors are very sensitive to late payment problem. But they have advised that by law, they're advising all their clients this. Every nonprofit organization is supposed to have a sample whistleblower policy. a sample whistleblower policy in effect as part of their corporate bylaws.
So if I tell on Phil,
Yeah, that's right. You can't be sued for it if you blow the whistle. Anyway, I talked to Lou about this, and our auditor sent me a sample whistleblower policy, which Lou has taken a look at. We're not in any rush to adopt this. It would be a bylaw addition right after our code of ethics in the bylaws. And what I'll do is I will send out to you a suggested draft. I'll send out to everybody a suggested draft of the policy for your input and comment, and we can talk about it at next month's meeting. I just wanted to bring it up this month as a point of information. And we have notice of enforcement action. Gentleman from Freeport, New York, which is out on Long Island, violation of Part 816D. His certification was suspended from January the 6th of this year till May the 1st of this year. And that, sir, is my report.
Okay, thank you very much. Go into treasurer's report.
Okay. I presented a printed report of the cash flow and balance sheet to everybody, as usual, and then to Lou and Sid and Howard. They received a detailed report, including the register report and copies of canceled checks as per our auditor's request, and as part of the review arrangements agreed on to meet the audit standards. So their report.
Everything to be in order. And on that note, I just want to interrupt Phil a minute. In our bylaws, Article 4, on committees, the regional program agency, we've had 3 members for quite a while, or since Bill Averill left. It states we're supposed to have 5 voting members from the council on this committee. So I've talked to Jack and I've talked to Tom Pasquarelli. They both would be willing to serve on this committee, so I, as of today, appointed them as members of the program agency committee.
Very good. That means that every month you get to review the canceled checks and register reports and all the rest of it. And I know that's something you're looking forward to.
Yeah.
Okay. On October 2nd, we voted to Lisa DeLong the council contract deliverables for the period from July 1 through September 30th, together with an expense voucher. Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. I'm getting behind myself there. January the 6th, those checks were paid, believe it or not, in a timely manner. January the 6th, we sent Lisa the council deliverables for the period from October 1 through December 31st, plus a voucher for $14,908.63 for expenses for that period. We also sent her the program agency deliverables and a voucher for $35,717.57 for program expenses for the same period. The state has advised that they are paying everything in a timely manner at this time, so stay tuned. We'll let you know. That, sir, is my report.
Very good. Thank you. Everyone has heard the treasurer's report. Need a motion to approve? Motion for approval. Do we have a second? Second. Motion been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed or abstained?
Bruce and I will abstain as test members.
Okay. Committee reports. Program agency.
Nothing over and above what we already discussed about 2 additional members of the committee.
Right. You got your filing cabinet, right?
Oh, yes, the filing cabinet is in place in the office.
impressive it is.
Joyce has not seen my office since I did some cleaning out. I don't think
Well,
she-
not since you cleaned it.
No.
Well, Jeff has seen your office since you cleaned out. He said you didn't clean out.
He said I didn't clean out? Shame on him. We're friends to talk that way. In any event.
Clean out by whose definition?
Yeah.
Well, by my definition, it's a sea change. Anyway, the filing cabinet is in, and the office is a lot, let me just say this way, the office is a lot tidier. Actually, I call it my cubicle. It's a lot tidier than it used to be. I invite, of course, anyone to come in and take a look at any time.
Do we have a second opinion?
Yes, you know, you're both.
I understand.
There.
I'll let you know.
Okay.
Porter.
No, it's a lot better now. A lot better now. Thank you.
Take some pictures.
I'm gonna put a garage sign now.
Okay. All right, any, training?
Great.
Nothing really new. I did, just as an aside, I did put all the new standards, into the emergency childbirth training program, so that should be all up to date. If anybody wants the new one, just let me know, or Phil know.
I can send it to them. It's probably too big to send an email attachment.
Yeah,
I'll send
it's
it-
too
I'll
big, you
send
need
it
to send it to
CBD.
me.
Sure. Sure. Make a note.
We had 80 attendees at our first run at the Winter Symposium, and I was very impressed by it, so
That's wonderful.
thank you for all the support. It's been really nice. We had people from as far south as Long Island and north as Tupper Lake, so.
Oh, that's tremendous. I think before I was talking to you just the other day about that, somebody was there, and they said that it was a very, very good experience, very good teaching experience, very good learning experience.
I thought it was done really well. The topics were good, and two speakers, I think they did a fantastic job.
That's wonderful.
I appreciate the feedback, thank you. We're looking to make it an annual event, so same time next year.
Received a call from the battalion, one of the battalion chiefs at the Columbusville Fire Department a couple of days ago. He was approached by Greg Viss from the Hudson Simulation Services, and since the program was brand new to him, he asked me for my opinion about it, and I highly recommended it to them. So they're going to have a training session for GFD. They'll probably invite Fulton County ambulance personnel to come over there also. I don't think they set the exact date yet, but they're working on setting up some simulation training there. That's all I know.
Anything else, Josie?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right, State Council. Oh, wow.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Excuse me, just
The
1
council
second.
met Tuesday and yesterday.
Mark, I'm sorry,
I'm sorry, point of order, that was my mistake. I should have done transportation standards first.
Oh, that's right.
Just for the sake of uniformity.
Take it all back.
Well, actually, there's nothing new with transportation standards, except that Racket Lake sent me an email saying he hadn't heard from the state yet with his official letter. Should he be worried? And I emailed him back and said, no, don't be worried, it takes a little while. Everything's official.
Okay, thank you. Cartoon. All right.
Now, Coach?
Yeah.
Yes. We met yesterday and Tuesday, and I got home about 6 o'clock last night and had dinner and started this, finished it up this morning. And I have to point out to you that in my haste, because I so didn't want to disappoint you by not having cartoons, and I was hastily pasting the 4 on the second page there, and I totally forgot in my hurrying to flip it over when I put it in the stack through the copy machine. So you have to read side 4 before you read side 3. So I merely pointed that out. I hope you enjoy the cartoons.
There's only one typo, I think.
Only one typo? That's pretty good. I went through the help thing too. So what did I miss?
The word motion.
Oh,
It's okay, it's a Steve Carl's report.
oh. Yeah, I wanted to point out this little HIPAA thing that Steve Kroll pointed out in his second report. Apparently this is a recent addition to the new HIPAA regulations, although Beth might know this.
September 24th.
Yeah. For those of us who bill, or those of you who bill, should you have occasion to have a patient pay you upfront in full, imagine that, and they request that you do not notify their insurance company by sending the insurance company a bill. I don't know why you would do that anyway, if they pay you, but anyway, you have to honor that request. And if they're a Medicare or Medicaid patient, you can't charge them any more than what you would normally recover under those 2 programs. So,
You get a lot of that, don't you?
yeah, yeah, we got a lot of it.
COD.
The call center at the Bureau seems to be working out pretty well, although I guess it's turned out to be a little bit complicated in some respects. Anyway, I put in a little tip that somebody else told me, that when you call in and they answer, if you say you're returning a call to whoever you want to talk to, they tend to put you right through. So, I hope you find that helpful.
Is that, just a point of information, is that call center right down there on Central Avenue, or is it elsewhere?
Well, I know it's not in India. Other than that, I don't know where it is.
No, English is their first language.
It's in town somewhere.
It's in Schenectady.
Is it?
Oh, is it? Ah.
That was the first question everybody's state council asked. It's not going to be in India, is it? I also wanted to tell you about this cash ceiling issue with the budget and how it affects recertification. A few years ago, we've been appropriated $19.7 million every year. But we don't always spend that, partly because we can't spend it depending on time-wise when things get vouchered. So I don't know whether it's a department or the Bureau of the Budget that says, oh, well, you only spent 18.6, so next year you're only going to get 18.6, and out of that you spend less than 18.6, the next year your cash ceiling is whatever you spent the year before. So apparently at the moment we're down to $15.6 million, which is quite a big hit. And they have not been able to pay the testing contractor, who I guess prepares and administers the tests and grades them. No, we administer the tests.
Wait a minute.
You guys.
Right, the Bureau hires proctors, we mail the proctor the box containing the exam and all this stuff. These are the people that run the Scantron sheets, grade,
Right.
and
Grade
validate.
the exam. Well, they haven't been paid in over a year, to the tune of about $125,000. I suggested they just ring up the governor and ask for a loan. That didn't seem to go over too well. So this contract that they have that expires on March 31st, they're in a bit of a panic at the Bureau. It could be that on April 1st there will be no more test days. There will be no more testing. So that will affect people who are in a refresher course. It does not affect the CME refresher program. And it also affects new students who have a test date beyond April 1st. For refreshing students who have a card that's valid through the test date, they can apply, and it has to be individual, that they have to research each individual. You can get a SAPA letter, State Administrative Procedures Act, that allows you to extend your certification until they can either get an extension on this contract, or they say that Andy and a couple of other people have been working on an RFP for this contract for 3 years. It's a 5-year contract that's expiring. So I don't know if this company that they're currently contracted with will even bid on an RFP, or they're also working on I think a 5-month extension of this contract, which is already an extension. They're only allowed 2, and they're trying to see if they can get a 3rd. We were asked not to create panic at the regional level, but I got to tell you the facts. So you need to be talking to your sponsors and make them aware of this situation.
Mark, is there a reason why they didn't pay the bill?
They didn't have the money. They can order new PCRs.
Yeah, I got 1.5 million to have PCRs from 2007 scanned.
Yeah. I'm not privy to how they spend their money, so I can't tell you.
Mark, on Saturday, Lee had closed the symposium, and she flat out said to folks that are there, echoed what you just said, and she actually turned around and said, well, she doesn't want to cause, mass hysteria over it. If anybody has any ideas of people to pick up and call as far as legislators that you may understand to
That's
put
right.
some pressure on, that now would be a great time to do it, because this is a real issue.
That's what I was going to suggest, and we suggested it yesterday, but if you have a relationship or want to create a relationship with your legislative representatives, now's a good time.
I think our media might be helpful too.
I'm sorry?
I think media might be helpful,
Yeah,
because I think it would be very,
Yeah, if you can do that, too.
very,
This, after all, is an election year in Albany, and a little media coverage on this, I think, would be just what the doctor ordered.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
I think it would take care of it rather
If
quickly.
it goes on for any length of time, it's going to cause some serious disruptions, or it has the
Oh,
potential
yeah,
to.
a very short length of time, it's going to cause disruption,
Here's
absolutely.
your chance, Tom, Channel 6.
There are,
I can hear it.
later on in my document, Andy said there are about 14,000 people that this affects, although he thinks about half of those are involved in the CME program.
Yeah, before you do jump into any pools though, I know that we have adjusted our course schedule in order to accommodate the needs of local providers. I believe you did also, right?
Yeah, I think Tom.
Schedule, yes,
Yeah,
but
schedule.
I can't push it any earlier, though. So we're still, our EMT class is still planning on testing in May. And I can't change that because of this college
and the
semester.
correspondence, just wonder if the course sponsors here are responding to this in order to prevent any problems.
I'm pretty aware that Otsego isn't yet. I don't think they even know about it.
I think this is relatively new information coming
Yeah,
out.
it is.
But we had a,
This, actually, I know we were brought to light, last week we applied for, put our application in for 2 courses, and the state has been very helpful
yes.
in regards to this. They called us up and they said, listen, it's not public knowledge, but you really need to consider moving your April test date to March. We were fortunate enough to do that, to arrange the schedule. Unfortunately, we had a short period of advertising this course, about a week and a half, to get the numbers that we want. And in all honesty, while we're not going to create a panic, April and May are probably definitely, that is the general consensus, they're hoping for June.
Here was my question, and it didn't get answered. I don't mean to put Mary on the spot, and she may or may not have an answer for it. Is ProExam's contract expires March 31st. The March, whatever it is, 20th test
Right.
date, are those going to be
Yeah.
received, graded, and returned?
Yeah.
Yes.
They should be under contract because it's for that calendar
Okay.
contract.
They're not administering or going to administer the test after March 31st.
Okay.
The only thing I have to say is if you guys choose legislative contact or media, please direct them to the public affairs office of the health department, not specifically to like Andy Johnson, Joe, or any media contacts. That's the proper way to go about it. There's been some issues in the past recently with people putting stuff in other contacts or directing people directly, including
Say again.
media.
The public affairs,
Public Affairs Group, PAG. They're readily available on the Department of Health webpage. We are prohibited to speak with media, and say you put something on Facebook, Department of Health's going to lose all their testing abilities. Boom, done. Once it's there, we are prohibited from making any comments on it afterwards, just as a government entity. So I urge you to go the proper channel. Do what you must, but go the proper channels.
Right. The other suggestion was that for those sponsors that will have test dates after March 31st, to think about scheduling some remediation class for your students. If you're going to have a gap between the end of your class and when they can test, try to have some sessions where you can kind of go over stuff just before the test.
and the state's
Question
paying
on
for
that.
this how?
A question on that, if this was to come about and they did do these remediation classes, are they going to be reimbursed for it?
That's a good
No.
question, and I can't answer that.
Absolutely not.
Probably not.
No,
This affects funding.
actually, let me say that though. It's a catch-22. Because a lot of course sponsors are making their students pay up front. The student's home agency cannot voucher until the student passes that test.
Right.
So it's truly in your best interest to help your student pass the test.
Oh, yeah.
It may not be $1 per hour exchange, but in the end, you do get paid or your student gets the benefit.
What happens if they have to retest then, after, say, March, the date? There won't be a retest then, until
Right.
whatever this is.
Correct.
Yeah,
Gary, we're in as much of a holding pattern as everyone else is.
yeah. They're really not having much fun.
Unfortunately, the course sponsors that truly rely on vouchering for their students are really on the hook here, because if you don't charge tuition, you're not going to be able to voucher until that student passes that test. So all of these course sponsors that truly rely on just voucher systems are not getting paid until that test has been passed.
And when the floodgates reopen, you're gonna get a ton of vouchers turned in that we all know the voucher system in itself
Yeah.
is what it is.
I think on the flip side of this, and you indicated this at the last meeting, Phil, you're getting paid in a rather timely fashion.
Yes,
We did.
You are one of the few regions, however, being paid in
Well,
a timely
that's true,
fashion.
but there is some effort to
yeah.
spend the money so that the cash ceiling doesn't get any lower.
Right, right. Well, we received our payments for the previous voucher, the previous quarter, well within 30 days. Well within 30 days.
Strem's hasn't been paid for like 6 months. I was at their last meeting.
Really?
I believe they're 6 months behind.
I know that she wasn't specific, nor did I ask her to be, but Lisa DeLong called me not too long ago about that very thing, just to reassure herself that we had been paid in a timely manner. And I said, oh yes, indeed we had. She says, well, there are a number of other reasons. Unfortunately, I said, what happened to this new leaf I was hearing about? And she kind of chuckled and said, unfortunately, what is. She didn't say many were being stiff, but she said there were some.
So, to go on, Lee told us that she has been told to understand that no Article 30 revisions will appear in the budget. Okay, and I think we discussed that last time. She said if something does happen with Article 30, it will likely be a departmental bill, but that should not appear until after budget season. So, just have to keep our eyes open. Lo and behold, she said the blood regulations have moved from the Office of Regulatory Control, or whatever it is, Regulatory Reform, to the Governor's Office. We don't know how long they'll linger there, but they've moved. It's only been almost 5 years.
I'll probably wait to see how much blood there is left after you.
Yeah, be all clotted. For those of you who remember George Johnson, a long-time EMS pioneer, member of the department, was heavily involved in education and other things in the department, died of cancer last weekend. And about a month ago, he had contacted Lee to say that he was no longer able to drive, and his license plate, which was EMT 1, I think George's EMT number was 1, wasn't it? It was very low.
Because you'd see his car parked in the handicap spot at the Johnson Road freight shop.
It was in Woodlake.
Card was number
Yeah.
one.
Yep.
Yeah, I had a run-in with him on a call. Showed up in his car, EMT1, and started barking orders like, and who the hell are you? I'm George Johnson.
He was going to turn in his plates, and he wanted to tell Lee in case she wanted them. She declined. She said, that costs money. Anyway,
But it wasn't some way you could take those.
I thought it was a nice
put them
little
in the
gesture.
memorial or something.
Just like
Yeah,
the
it
field
is.
did.
He wasn't the real EMT1.
No.
For a
Donna
long time, they
Johnson
used to
says
recycle the numbers.
that she's been authorized to enter into, or to issue RFPs to some selected hotels for dates for state council meetings of May, September, and January of 2015. But no specific dates are known yet, although I think the RFP is due back tomorrow, I think she said, so she might know more by then. Under education and training, Andy Johnson, apparently with this, there's a new CIC fast track program. And they're holding classes in Albany, as well as some other requirements that are that people have to perform. But they have, to date, trained 103 new CICs, and there are 40 more candidates in the pipeline of the program. So that's good news. In 2013, 20,478 providers were trained around the state. The average is about 20,000 a year. As you'll see, 2012 there was 16,000 and change trained. And we've already been over the SAPA thing. Let me go to page 4. I've included in your packet Mike Taylor's report on the EPCR program, and anything I've included in here I've not really had time to read, so you'll just have to kind of read it yourself. However, there are out of roughly 1,200 ambulance services, and then another roughly 600 first responder services. 381 services are reporting electronically. Is that about correct, Larry?
You'd have to take Mike's word on it.
Yeah, okay. And because of the volume of the data coming in and it's new, a lot of the services are recently gone to electronic PCR. The validity of the data is a bit low, but then as the volume increases and they keep submitting, it gets better. So we did have a CON hearing yesterday for the town of New Berlin. I'm not going to go into the details of that except to say that the ALJ recommended that the decision of the regional council, which was to deny the application, be overturned, partly because Susquehanna did not submit a transcript because, and as Ray Sarwick explained this at the meeting, they had decided they were going to go with video on the website, and that system broke down at some point during the hearing. They had not contracted with a stenographer. So at the committee level, some of the committee members felt that we should not be certifying or issuing a certificate based on something of a defective process, defective application. So they wanted to remand, and the initial motion to accept or adopt the ALJ's recommendation was defeated, and a motion to remand was successful. That motion came to Semsco, and the remand motion failed, and then a motion to adopt the ALJ's recommendation carried. And I was the one abstention. We had submitted a letter, Margaret had submitted a letter in objection to the initial application process, and so I did not participate in the discussion or vote. I included in here Butch Hoffman's safety, results of the safety survey at Vital Signs, which is interesting, and this extreme weather product that they put out, and I think you should all read that closely. I have not read it all. Butch gave a brief synopsis of it. But basically, 50-mile-an-hour sustained winds or 50-mile-an-hour gusts are the time that, or the cutoff point where you should not be sending people out, because that's when things get blown off the road. But there's a lot of good reading there in that. And that's pretty much the end of my report. Can I take any more questions?
Mark, do you have this on the computer? Do you have your report on the computer?
Yeah.
You do. Could you send it to me in an email attachment? And I'll see that everybody gets it.
Okay.
That would be very handy.
won't be any cartoons in it.
That's all right. That's all right. We have
It'll
the
be
benefit
just
of
my
background.
report unless you want the other attachments to it.
I'm sorry.
I just have my written report. I don't have all.
Yeah, that's okay.
this other
I
stuff.
can
Okay.
scan it and send it to you.
Oh, all right. Okay.
My IT assistant will help me.
All right, great. That would be great. When I get it, I'll only file it, but I'll send it out to everybody. I'll send it out to everybody, get the minutes.
Great.
Very good.
Okay.
And then we'll have the info about the testing and so forth.
Yeah.
Can I just point out something? The weather advisory policy, that came about, and I can speak to this, because staffing the bunker during Sandy, Lee, and Irene, a lot of people were questioning judgment, when should ambulances go out, and that's where this came from.
Mm-hmm.
So this is factual information from various sources, and as best they can adapt it. When the bridge is closed, etc. There's also at the back of the policy a lot of definitions as to what each weather term means.
Right.
So you don't have the Chicken Little saying, oh my God, there's a winter advisory, we need to hunker down for the week. And they go buy the eggs, milk, and bread. So, I mean, it's a lot of common sense in there, but it's a way to reinforce it with some people, if you need it.
This is a past official policy yet?
I'm not sure if it's
I didn't see
official,
the
it's in the
letter on it.
process,
It's in the process.
but we wanted to get it out there because of the
Yeah.
crazy weather.
Sure.
You know, and it references where it came from. Because we're finding a lot of people have misplaced their common sense when it comes to a lot of these topics.
This just happened, I mean, when you think about it, in Lewis County last week, they, talking about 5 feet of snow, they came right on the radio and said, we are not sending our snow plows out until it stops snowing.
Right.
What do you do? I mean, ultimately EMS has to shut down. And-
I mean, they actually had a snowplow. We listened to a week's worth of conference calls with John Morrissey last week. Get stuck. One of the snowplows got stuck in 81. They had to send the second one to get the first one down because they had a policy for that incident where they only would send an ambulance if a plow would go with it.
So it's
Right,
real.
and there is some talk in there about getting plow escorts if you need it, and going from, county line to county line.
My agency's been very fortunate with that. One of our commissioners is also the supervisor for the town highway department. And whenever the weather is bad, anytime there's an ambulance call or a fire call, he's out there with a truck on the road and throwing sand and salt down before the ambulance and the fire truck can get up before he's gone.
Yeah. That's the kind of stuff you need to do. And I know we go through, well, what should we do? What are we gonna shut down? Are we just only gonna take real sick emergent patients? And sometimes we call the hospitals and say, after 11 o'clock or something, we're gonna shut down till this calms down.
Well, we did get a statement from your agency on that. Our hospital did.
I talked to Mary, yeah.
We do the same thing, we won't, I mean, EMS calls are one thing, but transfers, interfacility
You understand.
transfers.
Unless it's an
that,
emergency.
unless it's
Yeah.
right.
Right.
Vascular consult that's gonna be seen the next day, that's waiting. Mental health, going to another facility, that's
And
waiting.
that's what we,
It's a common sense.
and yet we get pushback all the time that the BL, this is BLS transfer, it's emergency, it's gotta go now. No, it really doesn't. You could maintain it till morning,
Right. You want this patient to end up in a snowbank somewhere on the side of the...
and
Don't realize that they're responsible for that patient.
That's right, yeah.
Facility.
I just think that, any OB calls in that time, you should handle it.
So we did have an election, and I'm no longer the chair. And
You look heartbroken.
there are going to be some bylaw changes, and one of the things they snuck on me was, oh, well, the past chair should really sit in on the executive committee. So I guess that's where I'll hang out.
Actually, that
The
makes
balance of my
sense.
term.
That makes sense.
Yeah, in some ways it does. So
Yeah.
I said,
Okay, thank you very much, Mark.
you're welcome.
Okay.
When is the next, you don't have a date set for your next meeting? then?
No, well, we hope it'll be May sometime.
May or may not.
Yeah, oh, and I did want to point out that, two things, the Vital Signs will be in Rochester, and there will be the memorial will be May 20th. And there are apparently 11 50 members who have died as a result of responding to 9/11 from whatever they contracted. And that one responder from Minnesota who responded to Hurricane Sandy, who died, will also be on the memorial. So it's going to be a rather big occasion.
Okay, thank you. Regional program update?
Nothing, sir?
Any other program updates? Anything from REMAC?
Oh, Mark was.
REMAC. There was a question about the wording of the current service medical director. It was to be changed to indirect medical director in the wording. There was a discussion on the current REMAC policy regarding Cardizem, and if you don't have Cardizem available to you, that the recommendation is to call medical control. And there was a discussion on the collaborative protocols that other regions are joining in, and it's slowly expanding. And we're looking forward to an update in 2015. If anybody else has anything to add that I missed, welcome to.
I think that some of those are going to, well, the main revisions are going to come out in 2015. You know, in the meeting that we had afterwards with Dr. Daly, there probably will be some minor revisions coming out before then, such as the addition of Haldol and certain protocol changes, but the actual whole thing is being revamped for 2015 to include the AEMT.
Right, that, the hope is to get it in front of the fall 2014 CMAC and SEMSCO to be implemented 1/1/15.
Some of the things that we talked about in those changes was adding ketamine, pediatric fentanyl, palliative care protocol, termination of resuscitation is going to be broken down into 3 different types, 3 different groups, and give 3 different pathways. The addition back in the protocol of Haldol, an alternative drug formulary, so basically for every drug that's in the formulary, because of the shortages, they want to also propose an alternative for each of those medications, either the use, non-use, or change of any vasopressors, and maybe some pediatric steroids that were brought up actually in the regular CMAC meeting from New York City. And then there was a conversation on backboarding. Backboarding was a big conversation on whether or not we are doing more harm than good. And I think the general consensus out of that is that we will probably see backboarding go away.
Well, to a certain extent, yeah. Even with the new protocol where you can decide whether you really ought to backboard somebody.
They did hard. CMAC was very adamant about regional councils reaching out to the agencies within their region and addressing training on selective spinal mobilization protocol.
Yeah.
It's very underused, and they frankly I think the providers are afraid to use it. So it has been recommended that the regional councils reach out and encourage training on that.
And I would just like to point out, as your alternate, Tom has been the last couple of meetings, and it's pretty obvious he's been paying attention.
To speak to that spinal mobilization thing, I just changed one word. It's not the problem with they're being underused. The problem is being they're misused. If they're utilized properly, then you see documentation would support that they've done a proper neuro exam and so forth. They're not at all. They're simply walking up, looking at the patient, making a conscious decision not to backboard them to the ABC thing, ambulate before carry, and they're not doing a proper exam. And that's going to get them all in trouble.
You know, we're still seeing once in a while, see them come in the ER strapped to a backboard with a collar on, but the head isn't immobilized.
Yeah.
Well, when applied properly, it should be done properly, but they're not even applying it in many cases.
Right.
We got whole organizations that haven't pulled a KED out of the box in months, if not years.
Part of the problem with making decisions about that is trying to get enough data.
Yeah.
It's just really hard to get any data. So that's one of the first things they gotta figure out is they're gonna start a work group, I guess, between CMAC and STAC, the Trauma Advisory Committee.
There's a lot of data out there. I suspect the anatomy and physiology of New Yorkers is different than the rest of the world, but there's a lot of data out there. Just saying.
Is there data about the harm that
Yes.
sometimes can happen?
Yes, and even the National Association of EMS Physicians has come out with a position paper suggesting that backboarding is overused, it's improperly used, and is causing more harm
I
than
think
good.
that's where a lot of this is coming from, yeah.
From the state, from the National Association
Yeah,
of EMS Physicians.
We've had a couple of questions, a couple of docs, and a couple of PAs with question, you know, they call in and they're bringing in a patient from a motor vehicle crash, and they say, you know, the patient's up around walking. One guy had walked a quarter mile down the road to the house and called for help, you know, telling him he was in an accident and everything, you know, and he's not complaining of neck pain or back pain, so why now is he on a backboard? Okay, anything else on REMAC? Okay, county report. Delaware, anything different in Delaware than what happened last month?
I don't, other than, as everybody knows, Steve's assumed a position as of the first of this month as emergency manager in Delaware County, so they are seeking applications for the EMS position at Steve held. We have a couple of classes that test out in March. That's not it, that I know of.
Otsego?
Nothing new.
Okay, Mr. Harry?
Nothing new.
Montgomery?
Only thing that we have is obviously all of our training, continuing ed stuff is over here. We're offering 2 courses, an EMT refresher course that starts at the end of this month, January 29th, and we'll test out in March, and an original course which starts April 16th and hopefully tests out in June. So I know that the demand for the refresher course was there. If anyone has any questions, by all means, they can call our office, speak with Kelly, and we'll get them either signed up or answer any other questions that they have.
We have a full listing of the courses at GAVAC on our website, on the education page. There's a link right there to pick up a copy of the brochure.
Just so to know, next month, February, is a transition course for EMTs. I know there are some people maybe coming up on that deadline, that June 2014 deadline, which after that may get a little ugly. And then the March, our March Marathon Day, March 7th, I believe, Greg Viss from the simulation folks is coming down to work with us as well. So Mr. Viss is getting around. It's good stuff.
We've had wonderful turnouts up our way for this presentation. Really good turnout.
Okay, Fulton County?
Nothing new.
Okay, Hamilton?
Hopefully our courses, they're scheduled to test out in March, so in good shape.
Okay. Do we have any other old business for this council? Any new business? Yes.
Just wanted to mention that in Otsego County, it's a very small portion of the county, but a neighboring agency in Shenango County has folded. Mount Upton Ambulance has folded, otherwise known as the Board and Hose Company.
Board and Hose.
Yeah.
And their CON ran out, and their last certified person ran out at the end of the year. So,
That's be Jim Browning and his wife. And,
right.
Yeah.
Jim's wife requires a lot of attention, and,
Yeah.
and he decided that family came first. So, but so there are agencies that are struggling to the point of closing.
Yeah, and in that area right there, Mount Upton was quite rural in some places.
I've included this brand new policy about closure planning for EMS services, so we all need to read that, because it's happening. And as Lee said, you can't just close the doors and walk away, there's got to be some kind of process to go through.
All you gotta do is sit there and listen to the scanner. The other day, they banged out and banged out and banged out from one agency, and then They said that there were no CMT rigs available, and they went to 2 different neighboring agencies. The second neighboring agency, they said this is the 7th tow now, and they still hadn't gotten a call.
And that made the paper.
Yeah.
You know, I understand that there's trouble with the volunteer agencies, Board and Host Company being one, and I see the policy statement from the Department of Health, but really, if like Board and Host Company, I mean, they have nobody now, so they just closed.
Yeah.
How can they do something like this if it's an unforeseen thing? I'm sure their Board of Fire Commissioners, this was unforeseen to them.
They just need to know that there is a procedure in place.
Right.
You can't just lock the door and say, we're not going to answer calls. Whether that certificate, you know, gets terminated. I mean, this requires, for most of not-for-profit agencies, for sure, it requires action by the Attorney General. You know, you're talking federal funds, all sorts of different monies that needs to be dispersed, and who knows, it may lead to something that somebody may have to supplement with some kind of money to make sure that those citizens, but the Department of Health has to know that they can't. The problem is they don't know if they just close their door and never let anybody know that they're closed, and other than the dispatchers, nobody really knows what's going on. So they need a policy.
There's been quite a few agencies that have gone through this, and that's what prompted us to go through and, look, here's a template to try to get you through the steps. We realize every case is different, but just to get people thinking, okay, if this happens, what do I have to do? To give them a starting block. Could it happen suddenly? Yes. But at least this way, the people that are responsible have something to work with.
Yeah,
Well, you know,
it's informational.
Yeah. I was just kind of curious because I mean, like with Board and Hose Company, Jim Browning was everything to that ambulance.
Right.
I mean, he was everything to that ambulance and his wife.
Well, and I think a number of these have happened that way. We just, nope, we're not doing it anymore, and that really upsets the department.
You know, when one person that's the backbone for the agency says, I'm not running anymore, I mean, that cripples everybody around you as well.
Yeah.
How busy a squad were they in the course of the year? What sort of activity did they have?
Honestly, I don't know currently, but I know they used to do around 200 to 250 calls.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
In the last 3 years, we've been simultaneously dispatched because they know they haven't been able to get a full crew. They've been doing basically first responding, and then we've been transporting.
What I'm thinking about is, there's an agency that's having trouble getting people, and there was a paramedic that was not online anywheres, jumped on the ambulance with a stroke patient, started a line and all that kind of stuff, and transported the patient.
Oh, boy.
I mean, that could happen to these people that are not able to supply the people that need it. And it happened.
I mean, it's truly a big problem for just the agencies like not out there. I mean, my agency, literally, I'm the only ALS provider they got. We have a lot of BLS providers. Well, if I walked away from Lawrence right now, they'd be done for ALS.
In this day and age, you have to start looking at, I mean, the lack of volunteers out there is, I mean, a huge problem. Reimbursement issues are only going to become more of a problem as time goes on. Agencies have to start looking at consolidation. And there is certainly some things that need to consider. People move out into the boonies for reasons, and part of those reasons may be, well, you know what, you have to understand that you're going to have a volunteer fire department that's coming from 30 miles away, or an ambulance coming from 30 miles away. But those are the choices that individuals have to start making. But all these agencies, they really need to start looking at consolidation, because it's going to be a factor. There's no question.
Well, you know, like my agency is, my fire department, EMS, is a district. Actually in New York State, in fire district law says that they have to provide fire service. There's nothing in the law says they have to provide EMS. That's scary.
There's only two things that have to be provided by law. That's a civil office for a sheriff's department, and fire protection.
Right.
They don't have to have police, they don't have to have ambulance. Those are the only two things required by law to provide.
But if you do EMS, you have to assure a response. If you choose to do it.
Right. Well, something to think about, folks. Other business, motion to adjourn.
We next get together on February 20th. Happy Groundhog Day to everyone. Happy Groundhog Day.
Have a safe trip home, everyone.